Hello, everyone. In this episode, we have another young Indian with us. Right now, we have with us Rishabh Kundu. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Rishabh.
Thank you, Mathurji, for the invitation and for creating this forum where young people can talk about topics which they want to. I think after getting to know the importance of the forum from you, it is quite essential to get exposed or to get these opportunities early on so that you will instill a bold behavior in you where you can go and speak out what you want to or place your opinion very firmly out to the audience. In that respect, I think I can speak on a lot of things. I would like to first state a little bit about who I am. I am from Calcutta. I was born there. I went to school in Calcutta. Um, I very dearly love Kolkata. It's a city with a soul. We really love our festivals and our sweets. My parents stay there. Um, After school, or when I was in school, I once had a conversation with my father about where I want to do my undergraduate. I've always wanted to go into science and engineering because that was something which was instilled upon me by my father's activities. Like he never used to hire, or he rarely used to hire, rather, handyman for getting things repaired in the home. He used to do it himself, and I was his helper, always carrying something or something like that. And from there, I think I got interested in it. And then there's a whole reason as to why I studied materials afterwards. But I think I'll let that off for now. So I had a very tough conversation with my father once that where do you want to do my undergrad? And my father had extensively traveled in India. So he firmly recommended that whatever you want to study. My parents never forced me to, go into a stream. In fact, I think my somewhere in my father and my mother's head, they would have been happier if I took commerce and then took over the family business and stuff. But yeah, I am not sure, but maybe it would have been very different had I gone that route. But they never forced me to take up something. They were pretty open-minded and supportive. The one thing which they always mentioned was that whatever I decided to do, I had to be serious about it. This is something which is very important. That whatever you want to do, you cannot be like you are in it for a second and then or like for a week and then you say, okay, no, I give up. Because if you want to learn something, it's gonna get hard, but you have to be persistent about it. It's easier said than done, but you got to start. Of course, you can explore a lot of subfields under a major field, and you might not like all the subfields. That's completely normal, in my opinion. So coming back to the original point, I talked with my father, and my father said that with the way things are developing in our state, or it was developing then, this is like, I think 2015, 16, said it will be nice if you go out of the state, explore other cultures from India. India is one of the most, if not the most diverse country in the world. And there were many notions which he kind of knew that will be broken in me when I go outside. So that is why I didn't go to any college in West Bengal. I decided to go to an NIT Rourkela for my bachelor's. And the first thing which I learned there is that not everyone in India speaks Hindi. And I had a very interesting encounter with so when you go to a new college and you sit in the first class, the person you sit with, it's either gonna be your best friend for life or you're gonna hate that person. So these are the two extreme ends, I believe. So fortunately, I have made a very good friend out of that person, and I was invited to his room. He's from Andhra Pradesh, and when I entered, he greeted me in a way which is very offensive in Hindi. And I took serious offense. It's like, how can you say that to me? And then he explained it to me, and that was like a cultural shock within the country. So then it was very inquisitive to me, because that meant that there might be a lot more of these cultural shock, and what my father said made more sense to me because I was practically exposed to it. Like this, I interacted with almost people from all states in India during my time in NIT. I had friends in all, I still have friends in all states. I had a very fun time, a very productive time. My roommate was a very interesting person, and there were like people from all walks of life. I remember once the chief warden asked me if I liked the food at the canteen. And I said that I don't personally like it, but I have seen people who do like it. And then the reason I said that I have seen people who do like it is because they used to consume it on a regular basis and a decent amount, which I had never seen before. And the chief warden explained to me that the reason is that I was coming from a relatively privileged background, and probably they weren't. So the food which was given in the with no offense to the food in United Rourkela's canteens, by the way, so that no one holds me against it or pins me down. What they are getting in the canteen is like luxury to them, but it's like below staple life for me. And I understood these differences, and that is where I instilled this personality trait of being empathetic towards others. So you should not like, just look into someone and judge based on what they are doing or something which is extreme in an extremely short time interval. So empathy is very important. This is one of the points. Then I studied ceramic engineering in Rourkela, by the way, and after that I wanted to go out of the country. And the reason I wanted to go out of the country is because I wanted to learn why some of the other countries or cultures are so successful in engineering or science, and where are we lagging. And this is also where I want to mention Professor Parag Bhargav from IIT Bombay. He's a mentor to me and a dear friend today. He instilled some seeds in me, some very rational seeds in me, I would say, which made me very, very, or it rather changed the way I used to think. And this was in my second year or sophomore year of undergrad. And it made me very nationalistic, and it made me want to work for the country and be proud of who I am. So the whole point of me going out on these journeys to foreign countries is to get myself trained as to what do they have which we don't have. That was the aim with which I went to Germany. And of course, I also had my research interests in mind, but for the sake of a wider audience, I'm not going to go into technicalities. When I went to Germany, I had the notion everyone in this world speaks English, either like a little broken English, right? And when I landed in, I kind of knew that not everyone in Germany speaks English, but I thought that maybe they will understand some words out of it, and that was what I had in my mind. When I landed in Frankfurt Airport, the first person I interacted with after the immigration officers and all those formalities were done, that person didn't speak a word of English. I had to dance excuse me, I had to dance my way through to understand that I want to go to a place where I can get a taxi from. And this was my first cultural shock there. Like, so now in hindsight, when I look back and I connect the dots, I used to think everyone spoke Hindi when I was in Calcutta. And I used to think everyone spoke English when I first went to Germany. And these two notions were broken. So it's a very big world. It's a very diverse world. In Germany, one thing which I realized is that they're a country with a very scarcely, I don't know if scarcely is the right adjective, but they have a very low population. So they are not in the so-called rat race. Usually we Indians are. So they are not always in a hurry. They take their time. They think over stuff. I'm not saying that we as Indians don't think over stuff, but they take their time. And one very distinguishable trait I saw in the Germans was that they had absolutely no shame in saying that, no, I don't know. Can you please tell me about it? And this is very important. Usually in Indian universities or Indian schools, if you say that, no, I do not know, please tell me about it, you might be frowned upon and laughed upon. But it's absolutely fine. We're human beings. I think that there's like petabytes, don't cite me on this, but I think there's like petabytes of data being generated every day, and some of the data has new information with them. You cannot know everything. And it's completely fine to go out there and say, oh, that's a very interesting point, but I'm afraid I don't know the background about it. Can you please tell me more? And then what happens is that you grow as a person. You get to learn about a topic, and you may get to make a friend. You maybe share that same interest in the long term. And that has happened in Germany with me. The second thing which I learned, which was a very important trait, which I still carry with me, it was from Professor Jürgen Rodel. He's a very a big name in ceramics in the whole world. And I'm also very proud to call him as my mentor. Um, he told me that when he is interviewing someone for a position, he doesn't ask them that what can you do for me or what can you do for the project. He asks them, what are you not going to do when you undertake this project? And this had a very big meaning behind it. So if you draw a box, and we are all inside these boxes, right? We all have 24 hours a day, not a second more. So you have to be very, very prudent in planning those 24 hours so that you can maximize productivity out of it. Now, if you keep saying yes to everything which a senior or your boss is saying, oh, yes, I'll do it. Oh, yes, I'll do it. Oh, that is curious. That is interesting. I'll do it. You will end up overwhelmed. And this is something which I saw used to happen during my time in IT. A professor is coming and telling you, hey, this thing looks interesting. I started going to the labs very early. I published my first paper when I was 19. We submitted it when I was 19. I think it got published when I was 20. Um, so uh, if a professor comes to you and say, hey, I find this idea very interesting, I think you should pursue it. And then you cannot say yes to everything because there are already ideas and projects you're working on, right? Of course, you don't have to be very rigid towards them. You have to be dynamic, but you have to have a general direction of the project you're going into. So coming back to the box. So if you are saying that you will work for 8 to 10 diligent hours, it's not like where you work for 2 hours, go for a chai break for half an hour, come back, then again work for 1 hour, go for a sutta break for another hour and come back. It's like diligent long-term working. Yeah, this is what I really like about the Germans. You got to decide what you want to do with it. And for that, you need to see that how that motivates you or that serves your purpose or that gives you money or that is good for the society, whatever points you feel that is aiming or aiding forward. So whatever it is advocating, you got to look into it. So it is absolutely okay to tell no to people. So we have empathy, we have no, I don't know, can you tell me about it? And then it's okay, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I don't have the bandwidth of doing it right now. Sometimes, especially in science, these I think every scientist in their somewhere inside their heart wants to have a invention which is destructive in nature. I think Mathurji, even economists want to have something which is like, very destructive, world changing, global changing. And that's fine. That is motivation to you, that inspires you, go with it. But you need time to do good new things. You can do, I don't know, I don't want to demean any group or stuff, but you can do science which actually doesn't have any value to it. So maybe it is adding a little bit information to the existing knowledge we have, but at the end of the day, we could have lived with our information, and if those resources were directed somewhere else, it could have been used in a better way. So it is absolutely fine. And this is especially for the people in science or in the little advanced stage, that if your senior year project doesn't work out, if your master's thesis doesn't work out, if your PhD is not going like the way you want it to go, it's absolutely fine, because even when you have negative results, you have results and you can say why something didn't work out. It's also getting more and more common to publish these things, which is kind of a hallmark of whether a scientist is good or bad, and I don't agree with that. So these are, and the Germans, they only, at least the ones which I worked with, they only want to publish something when it is absolutely worthwhile. So they favor quality over quantity. And I think this is something which is extremely important. You publish 10 papers in a year, or you publish one good impactful paper in a year, for instance. So yeah, that was my time in Germany. I did a Master's of Science in Material Science in Germany. I graduated recently in the last week of June. And I also expanded because of my long-term research interest to environmental sciences there. And I had to say a lot many times that no, I don't know what it is, but I'm interested in knowing. And one thing, as we grow older, maybe if you are a teenager listening to this, you will not relate to it because you are consuming new information or new knowledge almost every day or every new class you get promoted to. Like for instance, if you start with I don't know, something zero dimensional, and then you go to one dimensional, two dimensional, and three dimensional, and then comes vector algebra and all that. So as you get older, you form a comfort zone around you. This is something which I learned. And then you feel very secure in the comfort zone, like two or three friends. And then maybe you know something about the field you studied in, and then maybe you are good at it. But let's face reality. We are in a dynamic world. So the world is always changing, right? Especially with the advent of data science and AI. I think it's changing every day. I'm taking some AI courses right now, and the professor just asks us that asks us to give him feedback as to what new things we learned from the internet, which could be inculcated in the course. It's changing at such a huge pace. So the skills you have are important, but you always need to upgrade or look into new skills. I started with materials, and to shape my research interests, I went into environmental science. I have skills from these two fields. And now, to accelerate the applied part of my science or the science which I want to do in the future, I'm in data sciences also. So, material science, environmental science, and data science. And I'm combining three of them for my PhD in Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, in the United States. So, uh, when you are learning this new information or these new fields and you are relatively old, you will be scared in the beginning. You will be seeing people who are speaking fluidly, like something you could speak on your field. But that is completely normal. You're new to it. So when you were born, you didn't know how to walk, right? But you walk now.
Yeah.
You go to so you need to stick to it. You need to tell people that, oh, I don't know what this is. Can you tell me? It's fine. Maybe you are an expert in your field, but you don't know something about that, but you want to learn about it. And there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
And I will say you need to be very persistent then if you want to stay up to date, or else there's a high probability that what you are doing will go out of importance for the general corporate world or the general market, and then you will be a redundant human.
Mm.
And if someone asks me what my worst nightmare is, it's to be useless in the society. My long-term aim is to make society a better place.
Okay.
If I am useless in the society, yeah, a well-educated person who is useless. So what's worse than that, right? You
Yeah.
have all skills and you are not doing anything
Right.
for society, or for yourself, or for your family.
Yeah.
And it begins at home, right? So these are some soft traits which I have been learning. And as you go into cultures, just very recently, I want to cite an example. So in the United, even when you are speaking English, it is so different in different parts of the world. So even if you go to South India and if you go to the northern part of India, it will be different. Like the endings of the sentences will be different. So I was talking to one German colleague very recently over WhatsApp, and in the United States, at least in the Midwest, so the Midwest is a region where like Ohio, Illinois, and but you can Google it up. I don't need to tell you. The Midwest is the region which is like, as it says, the Midwest. And Mathurji, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it extends up to what, Kentucky in the south, and then maybe in the Illinois there, Pennsylvania to the east, something like that. So in the Midwest, if you ask your boss for a suggestion, like, hey, I want to do this, what do you think? They will not tell you, oh, I think this is another way of doing it. They will say, I will do this and this and this. Yeah, they will start with I would, meaning that they will do it, but they are implying that if they are in my place, they will do it. And I am now used to that. So I told my German colleague, he asked me for a recommendation. I said, oh, I will do this and this and this. And there was also, and he thought that I was going to do that for him. And, we are speaking English.
Yeah.
We are speaking clear-cut English,
Yeah.
but it's interpreted so differently in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So in Germany, you can say that this is my friend, And you have to be very specific. This is not your romantic friend or romantic partner, because friend there usually means a partner. This was like, I was when I was new and I was introducing someone. Oh, this is my friend. This is my friend. This is my friend. I had this blank stares at me. It's like, how many friends do you have? And 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 this is something. So I have lived most of my life in India. I was in Germany for like 2.5 years, and now I'm in the United States. And as you go through cultures, you pick up the good habits and you also pick up the bad habits. I'm not going to elaborate on the bad habits, but the good, every culture also has their good habits. And as I said, like, Hindi is not the only language spoken throughout India. English is not spoken by everyone in the world. You get to know these differences. And as you get to know the differences, you can work with a bigger group of people. And working with a bigger group of people has a very big advantage. Because, for instance, we always have this biased thought process, no matter how open-minded we are, how we grew up in our childhood, how our surroundings are, how we interact with our colleagues and friends. This always creates a bias in our head. Sometimes the people who are really smart, they can understand that they are being biased to an extent. And most of the times it's in your subconscious, like your subconscious is adding that bias to your thought processes. And when you are working with a diverse group of people, these biases go down and the success of your team might go up. On the other hand, if you do not know how to work with a diverse group of people, especially in today's world. So when I go to the university, I see some undergrads, and they are, I think, second generation or third generation Indians, second generation, third generation Chinese, second generation. My dentist, she's a medical student at the K School of Dental Medicine. She's, I think, third generation Korean, South Korean. So it's getting more and more international, right? Now we are not like small pockets, especially with the advent of technology and all that. So I feel that you kind of have to, or at some point, if you are climbing any stairs, like corporate stairs or academia stairs, you will have to work with a team which is very diverse from across the world. And you will need to know how to interact with those people based on their culture or based on what motivates them. So, without demeaning anyone, if I were to work with an Indian colleague, or if I were to lead a team which had Indian colleagues, and I wanted to motivate them, maybe I will offer them bonuses. Like, let this say there's more money, you do it. Maybe that will motivate them, maybe that won't. But this is the usual way of thinking. If I'm working with someone from Europe, I will offer them more vacation days. And if I'm working with someone from the United States, maybe I will give them a combination of vacation days and bonuses. So everyone has different motivating factors throughout the world. And without stereotyping, you get to know it better, like from what culture they are. And you will be more careful in not offending anyone and befriending them. And the more, it's very fun. It's extreme. I know India itself is a very diverse. It's very fun. I learned so many new customs from across the world, so many new festivals. It's very fun when they make you wear their costumes, their dresses, and then you take photos in them, and it's very pretty. It's very pretty. It's like I think in one of the lectures of Professor Carl Sagan, he once showed us a very tiny picture of the Earth. This is like a dot. Yeah, I think it was taken by Voyager or some of the vessels which is like really far from the solar system right now. Maybe Voyager 2. I'm not sure anymore, or rather, I don't remember. And that these experiences reminded me of that picture, and like I could relate to it. Like there are like so many small issues we keep fighting on, and we have our differences, but we also are united as human beings, and we should be able to work togetherly. So this was like my journey from India to the United States. Now I keep joking with the Americans here that the next position I'll probably go to Japan, because then I will have circled the whole globe and worked in every sector. But yeah, that's there, and I think we should just to sum it up, because I think we are getting towards the end of what I wanted to speak for part one at least. Just to sum it up, you need to be an empathetic, or it's nice to be an empathetic human being. You need to learn that there are cultural differences throughout the country, I think in India, if you drive 100 kilometers in any direction, the language, food, culture, everything changes, right? this, I'm sometimes like, so I feel so fortunate to stay in such a diversified country. It's a miracle how all of us are together. And so, yeah, we need to understand that there are differences in culture, and we don't need to alienate ourselves from those cultures. It's nice to, blend in those cultures. We should learn how to say that, no, I don't know this thing. I'm sorry. I mean, you don't always have to be straightforward about it. And trust me, no one is going to remember if you tell them, if you are at a conference or some event where there are a lot of people, if you raise your hand and ask a question, say, hey, I don't know that. Can you please explain? First of all, the speaker will be happy because you were listening to the speaker and asked a question. Secondly, no one in the audience will remember that, oh, maybe if I was the person, oh, Rishabh asked a question, that was such a basic question. No, because someone from the audience might just ask a very question which is very obvious to you, but not to them. You got to say no to stuff which so that you are not overwhelmed. I know there's a lot of interesting things on this planet to do. Trust me, like if I had more than 24 hours, I will be doing a lot more than I'm doing right now. But I have 24 hours. So we gotta, at one point say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have the bandwidth right now. Or if you are an organized person like me, I don't mean to brag, but this is also something I learned in Germany. They're extremely organized. So right on the minute and stuff. So if you're like an organized person, you can see when is the next opening. And then you can say, okay, one of my projects is expected to wrap up by this time. We can talk after that. So if you actually like want to do it. And there are just some people who wait for you, and if they cannot wait for you, maybe they can accommodate you later. But you cannot like eat. I think there's this Hindi quote, and Mathurji, please correct me again if I'm wrong. Like you cannot eat all the pakwans together, right? Like you cannot taste all of them together. That will upset your stomach. Then after you gotta say no, you gotta be very, very careful about your time. You gotta be very selfish about your time. By being selfish, I don't mean that you delegate so many tasks to others that you are not doing anything. And I don't mean selfish in that way. By being selfish is like, if not everyone in this world is gonna be your friend, unfortunately. So if you are interacting with someone on a topic which is a sensitive topic and you don't agree with that person, do you actually want to go and fight with that person who it will, I mean, you don't know that person, you will probably never meet that person again, or in an online forum, it's like you are debating, wasting your energy, wasting your time. The most valuable thing we have after our health is probably our time, because that is and once time has gone by, it's not going to come back. So you should be very, very selfish in where you're putting up your time, how much you're putting up your time, how it is benefiting you. And as a conclusion, you also need to be rooted, I believe. So I have been to many countries now, in Europe, in Asia, in North America, only in the United States. So yet I will say that I'm still very much a Calcutta city boy. Yeah, tomorrow, if someone tells me, do you want to have this very fancy meal at Caesars in Las Vegas, or do you want to go to Calcutta and have the street food? I'll probably take the street food option. So I still talk to my parents every day. I love my parents. They are the world to me. I still talk to them every day. Maybe sometimes I just talk for 1 minute. Yeah, I just tell like, Mama, I'm fine. How are you? How was your day? Papa, I'm good. How are you doing? Everything fine. Maybe for 1 minute, but I talk to them because I like talking to them. There are days when I'm like extremely exhausted. I text them, I'm very sorry, I'm going to sleep. Very rare days, but I try to talk with them every day. While I'm open to exploring everything, I do not forget some of the values which have been imbibed on me. And I think we are a very culturally rich country. After the colonization period, we have forgotten these things. So we need to remember or re-remember these things. And some of the culture imbibed in us, I feel, is extremely rational. So, for instance, if I never try, or I always try my best to call adults with G or sir or something like that, because that's just someone who I am. That is my identity. So I do not want to fake my identity to fit in somewhere. I am open to exploring. I am open to calling you by your name if you explicitly ask me to call you by your name. But apart from that, I will do it my way, what my identity is. So your identity is very important. So I have an additional fellowship over my appointment at Case Western. It's called a Swanger Fellowship. It's been uh, it's from a generous donation from an alum we have, Dr. Lee Swanger. I had the opportunity to talk with him for a couple of hours, and he told me one thing that you are exclusively you. No one can be you, right? You are exclusively you, and you never forget that. And that resonated with me. Yeah, we cannot lose our identity. We can, of course, modify. We don't have to be rigid. Like, oh, okay, if I will never try avocado. I don't know how the taste is gonna be. I'll never try avocado. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be rigid, but you should not forget your identity. You should be open to exploring while not forgetting your identity. And these are very dynamic things. Like your identity, some core things always stay in, and then there's this superficial things which keep on changing. And apart from your identity, your opinions, if you have an opinion, uh, I think as this platform's aim is to express your opinions, right? To speak out your opinions. Very nice. Speak out your opinions. But our opinions are not always facts. So there are some things which are just true. So for instance, if you take Newton's laws of motion, right? I think everyone in the audience will know what Newton's law of motion is from classical mechanics. And if you take that, and if you tell me that you have an opinion that it's not correct, I will ask you what are the boundary conditions. I will ask you why do you think it's not correct and stuff. And either you will have to justify that. If you can justify that, I will agree with you. Or else you have to change your mind because that is the fact and your opinion is, I'm sorry, incorrect. It's just a hypothesis you have. Like for instance, I think there was this recent tumultuousness in India. Like they had a lot of sugar in these health drinks, and some influencer called them out. And after that, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm not going to drink health drinks and stuff." And now people read labels and all that. And some of the people who had these opinions that these health drinks are really good, they changed their mind. And I saw there was also a section who said that, "Oh no, these are health drinks. We grew up drinking them. Everything is fine." They have new, or rather, the information was always existed. It was just highlighted in a new way. So, yeah, you got to change your mind if you have facts which are against your opinions. And there is also no shame in agreeing that with the mindset I had at a point of time when I stated those opinions, I stood by them then. But on the light of these new facts which I got, I feel like the opinions do not stand anymore. And I am very sorry to have misguided you or something like that, but I was wrong. There's just no shame in saying that. I will have immense respect for someone who goes up on a stage and say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong because of this new fact." And if you look into any scientific development, most of this development they started from very simple models. And then the one layer of complexity came added up. So something was not as per the model which came up. And you only need, in science, you only need to disprove it once. If you disprove it once, it means that your model is not valid universally. Then you have to put boundary conditions with your models that this is valid in the XYZ boundary conditions. So if you see the chronological development, I don't know if it's also like that in economics. I did take a course once in my bachelor's. It was quite interesting. I saw all the curves used to go, used to bank at the bottom and then they again used to go up. I remember that. And if you see any scientific development, it was all like it started with very simple and then someone came up with a better model. So if you see the atomic model development, you had this apple pie pudding from Thomson, and then you had Bohr come in, and then you have Schrodinger with this quantum physics at a time when people were saying, "Oh, physics can have nothing new. It's a saturated field. Why are you a graduate student?" Schrodinger says here's a new field, a subfield of physics. So then you need to change your mind, right? So for instance, there's this professor, I think at Stanford, Professor Fei Li, and she did image segmentation. So because AI is the hot shot, I'll also mention this example that she used to take images and she used to ask people to label them, and then she used to train models on that. And when she was doing that, everyone thought that what she was doing was extremely unwise. What will you do of it? And then she had these really nicely trained models. And today, this year, the Nobel Prize in Physics and Chemistry was awarded based on data science. So, and Professor Fei Li is a very renowned professor today because of what the labelings she did. It helps a lot of people to segment images. So there were people who changed them. There were people who used to say, "What are you doing? You will never get tenure with this." So tenure is something like when a professor gets like a permanent position in American universities, they call it tenure. You will never get tenure with the research you are doing. But her research was, like destructive science changed the world. At least she's changed. It created a ripple in the world if it not changed it. So yeah, there was that. We should be rooted to our roots. Um, we should care about the relations we form. There is always work, but you should care about the relations. So, unless I have also seen people who have not been treated so nicely by their parents, but coming from very lovable parents, and in India, mostly, I will say, like this forum is focused morely on Indians, right? So I can say that usually parents do a lot of sacrifices for your upbringing. Parents could have reached or saved more money, buy a new house, buy a new car, or go on that fancy European vacation, but they didn't because they had to send you to school or they had to pay your college fees. And the day I think you truly realize that how much sacrifices your parents have done for you, that itself is like, a very motivating factor. So I was reading very recently a quote which briefly said that you cannot be lazy, because if you are being lazy, you are letting down the people who are counting on you or who believed in you. And my parents believe in me. I'm fortunate that so far in my career, there are a lot of people who believe in me. But the first people who will believe in you are your parents. And you, I have the personal understanding that if you have had these privileges because of your parents, like you didn't have to work when you were, I don't know, 12 or 13, and you never had to thought that how will I pay my school fees? What will I eat tomorrow? I am going to a party with my friends. What will I do if I don't have money and stuff? If you have never, I mean, the partying thing is maybe a bit exaggerated, but if you ever never had to think about these things, this is because you had backup, and those backup were your parents and maybe your grandparents, your family. And as you grow up, there's a probability that you will start your own family, and that is sometime a bit conflicting with your parents, I will say, though I'm not in that boat. But I have seen. I mean, as a scientist, I'm also a general observer, right? The observer of the world. So I've seen that sometimes it's like a little bit clash. But you always gotta think that. I think there was a movie, or I think one of the very famous stand-up comedians was saying that I was talking to my mother who could not speak after an elderly age, and I once lost patience because I could not understand what she was saying. My mother's sister, my Mosi came and said, Beta is son, why are you losing patience? Do you know why you cannot understand your mother? Because you do not respect the things she did for you. Because when you started speaking, yeah, and then you could not form a single word, she understood you perfectly. And today you are saying you don't understand your mother. So, yeah, I get very sentimental when I talk about my parents. That is there. You should be rooted in these things. You should value relations. So, if you are a successful person, to what you can define success in a lot of ways, right? In whatever way you define your success, if you are a successful person, it's not just because you worked hard. Of course, you need to give yourself the credit, but there's a whole village of people who were clapping all along the way. your parents, your teachers, your friends, your mentors. So some I am a global ambassador of the American Ceramic Society. I'm the youngest ever global ambassador in the history, in the 100 plus history of the American Ceramic Society. I think I was the third or the fourth Indian to be awarded that. The previous everyone was a professor in a big shot university in India. And I got that when I was doing my master's. And I got that because I was standing on the shoulders of giants. And I could stand on the shoulders of giants because I proved myself worthy to stand on the shoulder of giants. It's not like someone said, "Oh, please come stand on my shoulder." No one is going to give you that. So, value relations. If someone is helping you out today by going out of their way, do not forget that. It's very easy to forget the good stuff people do to you. Usually, if you go to Amazon and all those places, you see that you have all of these plethora of reviews, but they are mostly bad reviews because people review the products when it's bad. Everyone forgets to review it when it's good. So do not forget the people, the village of people who supported you. It can also be the maid in your house. She after coming to these Western countries, I realized that so much of time is spent in all of these household works. Yeah, you gotta do your dishes, you gotta make food, you gotta clean your house. It's very expensive to hire someone. With my graduate salary, I cannot afford to hire someone here, honestly speaking. So you're if you had the if you were fortunate enough to have a maid in your house, you might argue that, oh, मैं तो पैसा I paid to the maid, that's why she did that. But be thankful. I mean, she was doing her job, going out of her way, right? You did not have to. Maybe you were a spoiled child. You never even had to. I was a spoiled child. I never even had to draw a glass of water. I just had to say I want a glass of water. And you understand these things after you are away from them. Like when there's a say in Bengali, which is my father tongue, that দাঁতের মর্ম দাঁত পড়ে যাওয়ার পর জানতে পারো. So you understand the value of your teeth after you lose them. So you after you go out of your home, you understand the real value of home. When you're home, you're saying, mama is not giving my freedom, I'm not going there and this. But no, that is something which is, you understand, like, are you free in a foreign land or are you lonely in a foreign land? Yeah, there's a very thin line of distinction there. So anyway, yeah, this is something which I have realized so far in understanding soft skills. I think there are many more experienced people who can speak about technicalities and what needs to be done. And if you want to know, I will ask Mathurji to put my email address somewhere on the YouTube caption. So if you want to know how to, or why I chose to study materials, or how I got into Germany's university, how I got into United States university, how I got an internship, or how I network with people, you can always write to me. But I think there are, at my experience level, I think there are, I can tell you, I can give you technical advice, but I think I'm not the best person to give you technical advice. I can tell you what I find interesting, and what worked for me may not work for you. From someone like, from a professor's point of view, you can maybe have a broader view. Like, they will have a much bigger picture than I do right now. So the picture which I have is probably incomplete, or it's still segmented. So I will not give you too much of advice or too much of recommendations there, because I don't think it will be so useful. But these soft skills are something which we sometimes undervalue. These soft skills of saying no, saying that no, I don't know, being empathetic and everything. Because I think if every engineer might relate that sometimes your professors are empathetic towards you without being obvious. You are taking an early morning class, there's attendance, you are half an hour late, your professor smiles at you, scolds you 3 times, and then says, don't be late next time, gives you the attendance. And that is it, right? Someone you want to connect to someone, and you are writing emails and you're not getting reply back because everyone is busy, right? And you go to a professor and say, hey, I want to talk with this person, I saw that you know this person, can you like write one sentence and put me on CC? You get to meet that person. What you do after you introduce is up to you. But these initial connections, These soft skills are very important, and standing on the shoulder of giants is something. I think it was Newton who said that I could see the world from a different point of view because he could. I mean, not quote. I'm not quoting him verbatim, but I think it was something like I could only see the world better because I was standing on the shoulder of giants. So I think, yeah, this is what I would like to say. And apart from that, I would like to add that the grass is always greener on the other side. If you are in India, you will think it is superb in Europe. If you are in Europe, you will think it is superb in India. If you are in, I don't know, it's like if it's raining, you feel like it will have been good if the sun was out. If the sun is out, you will say that, oh, it will have been good if it was raining. It's so hot. So when we had the pandemic and we were all locked up in our homes, so all those people who used to write that, oh, we need 2 vacations a year only, 6 months of vacations for one period, like 6 months vacations twice a year. And they were all frustrated in their homes. Yeah, you can argue with me saying that, okay, they could not go out and do activities, but we human beings are, I think this was a Stoic book I was reading a while ago, which said that we human beings are always looking into exploring novel paths because we get bored very easily. But sometimes doing the boring things and staying persistent helps you a lot. So you might always think that the grass is greener on the other side and I can do it better there or things are being done better here. But given the apt amount of resources you have, you can do it from anywhere you can do. So I am an NITian. It's considered one of the best universities. Uh, for my master's, I got into almost all the grad schools I applied to. For my PhD, I got into all but 2 grad schools I applied to. I could have gone into these very big tagged grad schools, but they were not aligned to my projects which I wanted to do or the skill sets which I wanted to learn. And these are also some things like brand tags and stuff is something which we always see in India. Like, this guy has this brand tag with this name, but it's it's not always necessary. You do not have to go to an NIT or an IIT. It's nice if you go there, but if you don't go there, it's not the end of the world. I think the chairperson of JEE examination, which conducts the examinations for getting into NITs and IITs, is the current director of IIT Madras. I'm forgetting his name, Professor V something. He very publicly stated that I did not clear the JEE exam. I, in the sense, like the director of IIT Madras, I did not clear the JEE exam, but I could get in with a master's because I cleared GATE. I did a PhD. Then I joined as a professor. Then I was a associate professor, full professor, associate dean. Today I'm the director and the chairman of the exam, which did not allow me to go to the university. So these are just, societal pressures and brand tags and stuff, but you can do really good stuff. So I have met some really good engineers outside of the IITs and NITs. And I have also met some really terrible engineers from NITs and IITs. So uh, it's up to your pursuit of things. It's up to your dedication. Yes, of course. Getting into an NIT and IIT makes things a little easy. It makes it a little easy. You have this alumni network and you have these professors who already know people very well, but it's not the end of the world. And now I think with the education policies coming up, you can very easily intern at one of these, satellite universities like IISc, IIT, or NIT, and something like that. It's quite flexible to do that if you're interested. And yeah, and if you did not get into the places that you wanted to, doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You can keep on going, I will say. So whoever asks me, like, I could not get into an IIT or an IT, what, it's the end of the world, what am I supposed to do? And I usually tell them that I think there are more people who did not get into these universities than people who got into these universities. And they did not they did not do terribly bad. They did good, right? They did really good. And these are then just excuses we give to ourselves. At one point, you will realize in your life that Oh, had this situation been like that, then I would have performed. Why cannot you perform with the resources you have? Professor Raman, C.V. Raman, yeah, the inventor of Raman spectroscopy. He, after his trip to Europe, he was fascinated by the blue skies over the Mediterranean Sea. After his trip to Europe, I'm also enthusiastic about scientific history, like, how things came up. After his trip to Europe, he went back to Calcutta University, and there he started his work prior to joining IISc. And the fundings were not excellent then. Got a Nobel Prize. Raman spectroscopy is extremely well known in the world. Even people who cannot pronounce Raman properly, they know what Raman spectroscopy is. So everything else is an excuse you are giving to yourself. But yes, of course, don't be too hard also. But there are things which you can achieve as you plan to achieve them. It's just that not always it will work out as the initial plan, but you should never forget the long time goal. So before now I'll conclude. I think I'm also over time. But there's no time limit, right? Oh, sorry. So I want to conclude by saying that if you list, this is a recommendation from my side, you don't have to follow it. But this is something which I learned from Dr. Zufir Fan. He's a very promising scientist in Germany. And I took one of his classes and I TA'd from his classes also. He told me that he has this 10 things listed down that give meaning to his life. Or it's the 10 things which help him stay motivated or which is aligned with his long-term goal. If you make a list like that, and then whatever you are doing, if it ticks one of those 10 things, it doesn't have to be 10, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be whatever, but you should not have like too many of those things because then it becomes very generic. If you have like some of those things and whatever you're planning to do ticks one of them, that is your endless source of motivation. Because your boss can shout on you, you can have failed experiments if you are an engineer or a scientist, you can have really bad days, but you have to get up because your long-term goal is being fulfilled by that motivation. And so, yeah, that was all from me. For any youngster out there or for even experienced people who thinks that they could benefit from talking with me or chatting with me, please reach out. I will be very happy to talk with you. I also do a lot of outreach for these reasons. The fields I have been in and I have succeeded in so far, they are very unknown or like not so popular fields around. So I'll be happy to talk to you. And with that, thank you again, Mathurji, for this opportunity and the invitation. And over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you. You said you were not prepared, but this was in your heart. And that is the point on this channel, that people of your age don't have to prepare. They have so many things they want to.
I think for me, it's also is that I have talked at few forums now, and like I am an observer in general, and I I have some of these things in my mind, so I just felt like these will be useful, so I just spoke, and
Good.
everything else was just language, right?
All right, fine. So thank you so much for this. I think it's a very interesting look at different cultures and cross-cutting across India, across countries, and thriving in all of them. It's not like you said, okay, I had a culture shock, yeah, but you recovered from it.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, even if you are falling down, if someone is hitting your face with a bat, you can still recover. And now you have this beautiful plastic surgery
That's the
where
lesson.
you can also get your face back.
That's the lesson to me, that a shock doesn't mean you're dead.
Oh, of
Shock
course.
just means
I mean,
that you.
even materials have this thermal shock resistance. Yeah, you take a material from a furnace and throw them in cold water. Some
Right.
materials will not just fracture or segment instantaneously.
Okay, good. All right. So thank you very much. I'm glad you took the opportunity to say these things which are clearly in your mind and you value so much. And let's end it here today. I'll be back with another young person or an expert soon. Till then, bye everybody. And I want to talk to you offline.